Welcome to the Real People, Real Business show, where we're talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, lessons, wisdom, and guidance so you can be inspired to take action towards your own goals. Today, I am so excited to welcome Nadine Manson. Nadine owns a clothing business making high-performance leggings for active women, and I think she's spreading out into other clothing as well. She's built a super interesting brand that has shaken up the traditional business model in the garment industry and has solved these age-old problems of waste, ethical wages, and local economic support. I am so excited to have you on the show, Nadine. I have known you for years. I have watched your business unfold, and we have so much to talk about. So thanks so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. And I'm really excited to be here too.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell me kind of how you got to where you are right now, because I know your story, but I know that everybody who's listening would love to know your journey, because there's a really important part of that story that made a huge difference to you getting to where you are right now. So tell me kind of where you came from and how you got here.
So I wanted to be a fashion designer ever since I was little. I was in grade 7 when I was cutting up all my clothes and using my mom's sewing machine to turn them into things that other kids made fun of me for. But I would wear it all to school. And I took every sewing, art, fashion, illustration class that I could in high school. And then I moved to Whistler and I got really into snowboarding and mountain biking. And then that kind of changed the direction that I was going to go in, because I thought I was going to go into high-end fashion and live in Paris and do all that. But then I realized I didn't want to move away from the mountains. I didn't want to be away from the sports that I loved. So I still went to like a high-end fashion design school in Vancouver, and I did a 1-year intensive program, and I came out with a diploma in fashion design in all like hand drawing, hand sewing, sewing methods that you would never actually use in commercial fashion. And my plan was to go to Kwantlen and get my degree in commercial clothing so that I could design, ready to wear and activewear. But instead I got an internship at a local sportswear company in Squamish, where I still live. And I decided to do that instead of going back to school, because that way I was learning practical knowledge instead of going into debt. And so that internship led to a full-time position as their design assistant. And then in 2 or 3 years, I was in charge of their full collection, which was a 100-piece garment every season. So it was a big step up. But it was probably the best thing that I could have done, taking the internship. And so I still don't have a degree, and I'm probably never going to.
But you have an education.
Oh, I got an education.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you got it. I mean, that's only part of your story. You came and you started working for a clothing company locally. And then what happened? How did you get to your own business?
So I was with that clothing company for about 8 years. And, I knew that I always wanted to have my own clothing line. And I don't think in the beginning I realized that having your own clothing line kind of meant having your own business. But in my position, I was constantly designing what other people wanted me to design. And there was always very strict concept rules and descriptions that you had to really stick to. And anytime I kind of varied from it, they'd be like, oh, that's nice, but let's just scale this back to what's safe. And I didn't like that. I wanted to design, I wanted to have freedom to design what I wanted. And I knew that there was this kind of gap between what I wanted to design, what store buyers were willing to buy, which was the safe stuff, and then what consumers actually wanted. And so I started designing, the very first product that Blue Wilder did was these printed onesies. And I had kind of gotten the idea from a company in Australia because I had ordered one for myself, and I thought they were really fun. I thought, well, I don't want to order this from Australia. I can make it. And if I'm going to make it, I might as well make a whole bunch of them. So I did. I designed like 300 of these printed onesies, and people loved them. But they were totally wild. Like, there's no way I could have done that in my own job. So that was really the birth of the company.
So when you say onesie, you mean like almost like a body legging, like it's like for acro yoga. And
so they're called like cat suits, but think of like a full body onesie. They're spandex. They were like tank top style on top, and like people wear them to festivals, but were for like aerial sports, like aerial silks, aerial aerial yoga or acro yoga and stuff. Yeah.
So your company was born because you saw a need for something that you couldn't get on your own, and then it became what?
Yeah, so it was this product that you couldn't get anywhere else. They were only coming from Australia. I knew lots of people in North America would want them. And they were great. And then I realized in that process, though, people kept asking me, these onesies are awesome, but I can only wear it, 3 or 4 times a year when I go to a festival. I really love to have these as leggings so that I can wear them all the time. So that was kind of the next step. We started doing leggings, and I realized right away, the funky prints that I was creating with leggings, there's no way I could have done them with my, my safe commercial design job. I had to do it with my own company, and I had to bring it direct to the customer and be getting their feedback on what they wanted, because people were telling me all the time their ideas for prints, and I was having so much fun with it too, getting to design whatever I wanted. And I had no graphic design experience when I started, but I had pictures in my head of what I wanted to have, and I was asking friends who knew how to do graphic design, like, hey, can you take this image and tweak it? Can you move like the dinosaur over here? Can you make the kale look a little bit more intense? Yes, kale and dinosaur prints.
I have both of them.
And this was before printed leggings were really taking off. Printed, full image graphics on fitness leggings did not exist at this point. There were some fashion leggings doing it, but it hadn't blown up. And I went to my first trade show in Vancouver, which was the Rock and Roll half marathon. And literally me and my business partner at the time we were so busy. We were so busy, we couldn't handle the amount of women flocking our table, grabbing the pants, we would just fix a pile and it would be torn up again. And we were like, what is going on? It's not quite like that anymore because, now the market is flooded with printed leggings. But it was, it let us know that this was a huge demand for this product.
Okay, so keep going.
So it was nice to know that there was the demand. The part that we didn't really have figured out was the business side. We knew how to design the product, but we had never done any marketing. We didn't know how to, we didn't know how to build a brand strategy. We didn't know how to budget properly. We were like, we're going to be millionaires in 5 years. And all the, we would go to lending programs like Futurepreneur and stuff, and they'd kind of look at our projections of making $5 million and be like, yeah, no, we're not lending to you because you guys don't have a grasp on reality yet. And so reality set in really fast that, in order to kind of grow this brand, we were going to need more money. But the process of trying to get funding was so involved and so intense. And you're writing this huge, long business plan. You're trying to create these forecasts, but you just, you don't have the experience yet. You don't have the data yet when you're first starting. And so it's super challenging. And we figured out, I was the really passionate one about fashion design, and my business partner, wasn't as passionate about this industry. And that's what, you kind of realize earlier on, just how motivated you have to be, how much you have to believe in it to make it work. And so I was the one that, kind of continued on, and it's been a struggle, but 5 years in now, I'm sure we're going to get to all the details, but it's been worth it.
Okay, and those are the details that I'm most interested in hearing about. So you didn't just kind of decide to design a business around these leggings and then it just happened. So let's dig into that. Your story is so interesting because what you did is you took something that was challenging and you innovated on a very traditional business model.
Yeah. So when I worked for the local clothing company, they had a very traditional business model, which, you would design the whole collection, you would make prototypes, and then you would make sales samples, and then those sales samples would go out to sales agents, and they would go to trade shows, and then they would book as many orders as they could. And then only the styles that had enough orders to meet the factory minimum would get made. And, factory minimums local here in North America are usually around 300 to 500 units. If you're trying to build something overseas in, China and Asia, the minimums are usually, 1,000 to 2,000 units per style, which is a lot, as you can imagine. And then often, if a garment didn't quite have enough orders to make the minimum, they would bump up the order to make the minimum just to get it made, especially if it was a flagship piece or something they really wanted to make. And so when we're talking making extras, you'd be making like 50 to 100 extra of something, which is a lot of extra. And then you would go to production, and you know, our warehouse, even just in the studio in Squamish, would be full of all these extras. And we'd have sample sales, and you'd sell a lot of them. Often you'd end up selling them in sales for less than what they actually cost just to move these pieces, or giving it away. And so that to me just seemed really wasteful. And more than the material waste in that, I noticed, you know, I was thinking of the capital waste. You know, think of how much money is getting spent on these garments that are extras that nobody really needs. And then even the sample sets, you know, you'd make 100-piece collection, but only 25% of that would go to production. So, you know, 75 of these garments that I've spent 6 months of my life designing and developing aren't even, you know, getting used for anything. And you know, dollar signs are going off in my head. I'm like, this is insane. Meanwhile, it'd be my job to go to the factories and negotiate lower prices. You know, I'm haggling factory owners to make something 25 cents cheaper, 50 cents cheaper. And you're standing in this factory and looking around, thinking, you know, really doesn't look like they've got another 25 cents to take off a garment. I don't want to be negotiating lower prices when my eyes, I can see that, you know, they don't have a lot of wiggle room either. And meanwhile, I know how much capital is being wasted by this brand. So it didn't sit well. You know, on one hand, I'm getting bored doing the kind of same processes over and over and over again, designing products that I'm not really inspired by. You know, I can't really relate to the product as much, and I'm not getting to have, you know, freedom of creativity. So on one hand, I'm feeling that, and then on the other hand, I'm feeling all of this waste, and I'm starting to think like I could do this better. But you know, I wasn't in control. You know, there was only so many times I could make suggestions, and so finally I decided, okay, I think I can do this better. I'm going to start my own company. And, you know, I did start with the belief that I could do it better. And I did find out very quickly in the first 2 years why things were done the way that they were done. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. There's no money and there's no time. People are just being forced down this avenue that they think that they have to go down. And I know you're going to ask me at some point about a pivotal moment, but the pivotal moment that I had was realizing that just because somebody's trying to force you down a path doesn't mean you have to go that way. And the more that you can actually resist it and turn and go around the other way, you know, then you have all these people going this way and you're this one person going this way. Who do you think you're going to notice? So I've learned that anytime I'm feeling forced to do something that I don't really want to do, is to just like dig my heels in deep and go the other way, no matter how scary it is, because it's worked so far.
I love this. So let's hear it. Like, what actually happened? Did you get to a point where you were just like, this was the decision point? Something forced you to make a decision?
Oh yeah. So when I first started, you know, I had my training with my job, and I was used to this traditional business model. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna follow, you know, the general business model, but I'm gonna try to do it better. So I was using material made from recycled plastic bottles, and I was producing only in Canada, which I believe to be ethical, because, you know, you think a controlled minimum wage is ethical. So, you know, I wasn't producing overseas. I was producing in Canada, where I could go to the factories and I could see the conditions. And if they told me a unit price, I just kind of accepted it. I wasn't really trying to negotiate lower prices. So I thought, okay, this is great. You know, I'm doing things really well. And I did, instead of making a ton of products, I just made a few products, and I kind of designed them to the best of my ability. And my goal was to sell all of those products. So, you know, normally you'd have this big product line, and some of the garments are fluff or fillers. You know, they don't really intend to sell them, but they just make the line look better and more presentable. So I didn't do that. I just had a very tight little collection of leggings and a top. And I went to a trade show, and I started booking wholesale orders, and people responded really good. You know, we got customers right away, and got enough orders to make a production, and then we made a bit extra so that we could sell direct online. And then I kind of had trade shows and stuff planned. And so that worked okay. But we weren't making any money, because to produce in Canada using materials that are eco-friendly and do small batches there and then sell to wholesale, there's just no profit margin. So I was making no money. I couldn't pay myself. And then I decided, okay, well, maybe I'm going to bump up my online sales then. I'm going to try harder to sell things online. And so I had, our website was redone. I made it look better. I planned out a bunch of trade shows. I did make a bunch of extra stock, thinking, I'm going to sell it online, direct to customers or at these shows. And by this point, I was about 8 months pregnant with my son. I have one son, one child. And I had done 2 trade shows in a row where my sales hadn't gone as well as I thought. So I hadn't moved nearly as much product as I thought. And then I did this other trade show which I had projected doing really well at, and I just didn't do that well. I sold, I think, less than half of what I thought I was going to sell, which was the BMO Marathon in Vancouver, which was a running event. And like I said, I had done the rock and roll one before, and it had gone really great. So this one I was expecting to do even better because I had a better, better product, bigger line. Thought I was going to do better, and it didn't. And so now I found myself with about $30,000 worth of leftover inventory sitting in bins in my living room that I felt like I wasn't going to be able to sell. And I was 8 months pregnant. I was totally burnt out. And I think this was about 2.5 years into the business now. So I was exhausted, and 2.5 years in, I still hadn't really been paying myself. So I wasn't making any money. And my personal debt was going up and up and up. My credit cards were maxed out, and I had like 2 cents in my bank account. And I was about to have a baby. So I was like, okay, I'm done. And that's where, I came to you and was like, I quit. And you told me that normally you would tell someone like me to pull up her big girl panties and get it together. But you recommended that I take a break, which, yeah. It was really good. So I took a break for about 24 hours. And 24 hours later, I came back to you. I have a plan.
And it was a good one. I mean, it was exactly what you needed to do. You were burnt out. You got a baby on the way. And that's like the point at which most people are like, okay, big life change. I think you told me you were going to become a realtor. And that you were going to and I was like, wait, hold on. Because, what I saw was that you had the product. And this is the big thing for people, right? Is you had the asset, you had the product, you had something really, really good. And now you needed to figure out how to make it profitable. And so when you have that starting point, you never want to quit because there's something here and we just have to figure out the business model that's going to work. So you innovated, you came back to me and you said, okay, I've thought about this for literally 24 hours. It was like the next day and you're like, I've got it. So what I have to say about your business is that you were the one who got me thinking differently about why we build a business in a certain way. And where your focus had been on optimizing profit and you were being forced to try and consider doing things in a way that was really in conflict with what mattered to you. And you were coming at this already with an idea of what you wanted to solve. And so you wanted to fix this waste problem. You wanted to fix the ethics problem. You wanted to fix the sustainability problem. You wanted to fix the economic problem. That's a lot to take on for someone in a very traditional industry. And so when you took a step back and you sort of realigned yourself with what mattered to you in your business, like I have to thank you because this became the whole foundation for the way that I do coaching and the way that I design businesses, because this business that you were being forced into was at odds with your values.
Oh, for sure. And going back a second, because you'll find this funny. So the real estate thing, that was my old business partner. She became a realtor, which is perfect for her. Me, I told you that I was going to be a dog walking romance novel writer, which was the 2 easiest, highest paying jobs according to a Google search. So that didn't happen. Yeah, okay. Ugh, just had a brain blank there. So what had happened is you had walked me through the business model canvas. And, instead of using this business plan that I'd written, once, never edited, never looked at it again, you had set me up with a business model canvas and I had done it. And right away I could see why my business was failing. And that was kind of the like, okay, this is failing, this can't work, I quit. And I think literally in that 24 hours, people had kind of, I had started to tell people that, I think I'm going to quit. I think I'm going to stop. I had started to tell friends that I was done. And some customers had said to me, if we prepay you, could you still make us our favorite leggings? Because people really, really liked the leggings. And, one thing that sets them apart is that my background in, I wasn't just designing the clothes, like I knew how to pattern draft, I knew how to sew. So I was able to really nail the fit and the feel of my product more so than I think a lot of companies that are starting up now. But anyways, people asked if they could prepay. And I started to think, this is when things like Kickstarter and GoFundMe were starting to take off. And so I thought, that could work. If people prepaid for the leggings, then I wouldn't need financing. I wouldn't be trying to, I wouldn't be spending all this time trying to get funding for my next production. And if that, if I didn't have to do that, I wouldn't be paying interest. I wouldn't be spending all that time on, trying to track down this funding. That would allow me to work on my product more. I wouldn't have the liability of leftover inventory. And so I could just generate pre-orders, make exactly what I needed. I wouldn't have this risk of leftover inventory. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to build a Kickstarter campaign. And if I get 50 orders, I'm going to do it. And normally getting just 50 of something and being able to go to production with it is pretty unheard of. I mean, if you're out there thinking of starting a clothing line, don't think you're going to be able to make just 50 of something with a factory. But I sought out a factory in Vancouver, a smaller one, that, I kind of told her my plan and that I wanted to do just 50 to start, but I would be ordering from her every single month. And then that was the thing for her. She, normally she wouldn't accept this kind of thing, but the fact that I was going to do it every single month, she said, okay. And also I was going to do my own cutting. So cutting the fabric, I figured out, with experience, you start to figure out ins of the industry. So something I never knew until being in the industry for about 8 years was that cutting the fabric was why the minimums are so high, because that takes the longest. It just makes the most sense to do it in large numbers to be efficient. So it's like, okay, if I cut my own fabric, can I get away with doing just 50? And maybe I'm not going to be making as much profit in the beginning because it's not as, it's not as efficient, but I'm not going to have the risk. And it was really important to me at this time to not have any financial risk because I didn't want to go more into debt. I just started a family. I had a baby, and we were renovating. And literally, I had no savings. And I had a maxed out credit card, so I couldn't do any more financial risk. So by doing that, I was able to get away with doing just 50 orders a month. So I built a Kickstarter campaign with a newborn across my lap. At this time, we were living in a camper in our driveway in Squamish through winter with 2 dogs, 2 husky dogs. And if you know Squamish, you know that it's really wet and disgusting in winter. But I worked on this Kickstarter campaign, and instead of being super depressed by my situation living in this camper, I was wishing that the days were longer. Like I just wanted to have longer days and more time so that I could get more work done. And I launched the campaign in October, and by the end of October, I had my first 50 orders and $5,000 on its way to me in a bank account. And that was the rebirth of Be Wilder as a slow fashion activewear brand built on pre-orders.
Oh, I just love it. I love it. I mean, I know your story so intimately and so well, and it's such a good one because here's what happened. You got aligned. Right? You rebuilt a business that was totally aligned with you. And what I saw happen was that your entire energy changed. Like you had been marketing your stuff before and kind of like doing it. But when you shifted this brand and you started to get behind what this was going to stand for and the story behind it, your marketing went crazy. And you have built these really loyal followers and this really loyal community behind the brand. And, we'll talk about that in a second in terms of kind of where you're going with this. But how did that alignment shift the way that you were showing up in your business?
Oh, it changed everything. Like you know you've really found your purpose when you can't stop yourself from working on it. You know, I am absolutely a workaholic, and all the time my partner, like, I'll be working in the evening and my partner's like, what are you doing? Like, take a break. And I'm like, you know what? This is fun for me. I am having fun right now. I'm working on my marketing, or I'm working on a new pattern or a print. And I'm like, this is fun. Like, I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop and watch a movie and sit on the couch. I want to be sitting in front of my laptop designing this new print or working on these posts. And because I really believe in it, suddenly I wasn't feeling at odds with what I was doing. I was feeling so purpose driven. And I know that the clothing industry is such a controversial topic for so many people. And the very, kind of first thing people think when they think about the clothing industry and all the problems is, let's just stop production. Let's just stop making new clothes. And I felt that way too. I mean, that's part of the reason why I quit. I was like, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. I can't think of any other solution other than to quit. And I think, for anybody working on their business that's having these challenges, give yourself permission to quit, just mentally give yourself permission to quit, because as soon as you clear up your mind, give yourself space to think, and you're no longer thinking about the daily grind of tasks that you have to do anymore. That's when the creativity just goes wild. So, give yourself permission to step back. And then when you do that, you realize that, quitting is generally not the answer. If I quit and I left the industry, then nothing changes. There's nobody influencing change, or at least not as many people influencing change. There's still just the big corporations going on making clothing as they always did, and people buying it. So the only real way to influence change in the industry would be to actively be in it, present consumers with a different option, educate them on all the options, and start to take consumer dollars away from the brands that are doing things in a way that we don't believe in. That's the only way to influence change. So, I got back into it, and suddenly I really had this purpose. I really wanted to educate consumers on everything, and I wanted to be super transparent. I wanted to invite them into my process. So anyways, I saved up a long time to be able to do this behind the scenes photo session. I had a girl come down to Vancouver with me, to my suppliers, and take pictures. We went into the factory. We got permission from all the employees there to have their pictures taken. We got photos of my product being made. And this was just something that you never see. I had never really seen another brand show you pictures of their garments being made. Even if I went on to stock photo sites and searched, production or garment production, there was not a lot of photos. And I think, part of the reason you don't see it is because it's shocking. Even in the factory that I was using, that was paying fair wages, that's in Vancouver, where we think everything is, ethical, it's safe, the working conditions are great. The woman that owned the factory, she's wonderful. She treats everyone really well. But they just look like chaos. Factories look like chaos. And so you see these pictures and it's kind of, it provokes a reaction in people. But I think it's really important to be honest about that. People need to see what these conditions are in order to want to be a part of change. I mean, even I need to just see the conditions through the lens of the camera and think whoa, I know that this is ethical, and I know that this is safe, but still, I wouldn't want to work here. There's no amount of money that you could pay me to work here. And part of my future vision is creating an in-house production space that is, beautiful and inviting place that people want to work. And I share that with my customers. I share my future vision, and who knows, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years. But, I know what my future legacy that I want to leave behind looks like. And that, it's easy to be driven to get up every day when you have this very clear vision of what, not just the future of your business, but the future impact of what you're going to create. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. There's so much to unpack there. And, it's so, to me, it's been, what you embody is courage, right? And just this relentless pursuit of what is right. And so you've built this business model that's totally aligned with your values and with the change that you want to make in the industry. But let's get real for a second. What kind of impact has it had on your bottom line?
This is the thing, you think that you have to get pushed in certain directions to make more money, and you think you have to follow tradition and follow the pathways of what other brands are doing in order to increase your bottom line. But that's not true at all. I think people when you really stand for something, and when you stand for things that other people, can relate to. And I think, wanting to give back, wanting to do good, wanting to be truthful, these are all things that we all aspire to. And when we see somebody doing that, they become this beacon, and we want to help support them. And so since making these changes, and like, I honestly, I feel better getting up every day. But it's really grown by following. I've aligned myself with a lot of people who have the same values as me. I know that I'm inspiring a lot of people to have the same values as me. And I think that I want to, on the topic of alignment, we think that if we are going to make all these changes and do these things, we're going to be a leader, and we start to feel like, okay, I have to do everything. But you don't. You don't have to do everything. You just have to stay focused on your one little area and align yourself with all the other people that are, that have the same beliefs as you. And then you start to create this community of people who stand for the same things, who really work together, who support each other. And you get connected with each other's followers and each other's friends and family. And it all just kind of comes together into this, beautiful thing that grows and grows. I partnered with Girl in the Wild, Kim McMullen, that founded that last year. She helps send teenage girls to wilderness camps where they learn leadership and self-confidence. And she helps fund these camps. Are totally free for the girls. She does all the behind the scenes. And giving back in a way like that was something that I always wanted to do. And I thought, I'd have to do it within my own organization, but I didn't. When I started doing what I believed in, I found her. And, things like I wanted to be able to give back. I wanted to be able to reduce the emissions more than I was creating in the production of my product. And so I found like one tree planted. And for every product that I sell, I plant a tree. And once matured, that tree is going to sequester 48 pounds of CO2 every single year for the lifetime of that tree, which is definitely giving back more than the CO2 emissions created by one pair of hands. So little things like that that you can do, and you don't have to, I don't have to go out and dig a hole and plant a tree myself, which would not be efficient for the number of sales that I'm doing. But yeah, there's lots of organizations that have the same values that you can align with, and it makes a huge difference. You just have to open yourself up to it.
So this alignment has created growth within your own business, not just growth of your brand, but growth of your revenue. Like you were kind of inching along before, and then, since you've implemented this new business model, what kind of growth have you seen from a revenue perspective? Because it's not insignificant.
So from that first pre-order that I did, where I generated the 50 orders and I generated the 5K in sales, and I should state that when I started working on that campaign, I had $250 in my bank account to my name. That's all I had. My credit card was maxed out. I had nothing. And I had a newborn. And so I turned that 250 into my first 5K. And then in that first year, I did 100K in sales, which was the most that I had ever done, which blew my mind. I hit 101 by the end of the year. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I was thinking, normal growth rate is about, 10%. But that first January after that year, my growth in January was like 275%. And I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. So I set this crazy goal for the next year. And I set, I wanted to do 100% increase of 200K. And I didn't make that. I ended up finishing the year at 150. But I did a 50% increase in my sales in that second year of being a pre-order business. And then this year, I am already in January. This month, I compared it to last January. So last January, at this point, I was at I think under 5K in sales. And this January, I'm over 10, which is just mind-blowing. I remember when we first started, just dreaming of the day where I would make one sale a day, and it felt impossible. The idea of doing 30 sales in a month felt impossible. And my entire goal for the year was doing 20K in sales, or realistic goal. And then now, this year I'm adding products to my line, and my goal is to do 300K, and it feels completely possible.
It is completely possible. So, oh my God, there's so much to talk about here. So beyond the fact that you got super aligned with your values, You are also running your business like in a textbook way, and you have created systems. You have been very smart about your financial management. You are creating goals for yourself that are realistic and doable based on data, but also give you a little bit of a stretch. And when you can envision those goals and you can envision what you need to do to get there, now this year you're starting to build marketing activities. You're starting to be smart about your growth, because you know those are the things that you need to do in order to push sales. Like, it's not enough to just rely on your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You are now injecting growth into your business rather than just trying to sell.
For sure. And I mean, like I said, I had no marketing experience, no business experience. But I feel like when I'm talking to people about it, I feel like I don't sound eloquent or anything. But our ability to explain things versus our ability to know what we need to do inside of our heads are completely different. So I think, don't feel like you have to be, really good at explaining how you do what you do, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you have a direction. So, people talk about sales funnels, and I wouldn't even really know to think of what I'm doing as a sales funnel, but it is a sales funnel. And I have built a bit of a strategy for myself where it kind of starts with a big contest in order to gain new followers and to gain new subscribers, because I figured out that my Instagram and my email are my top ways that I get new followers and I get new customers. They're my top referrers to my online business. So I was like, okay, how do I get more followers and how do I get new email subscribers? Because through my Instagram posts and through my email marketing is when I get to really share what makes my brand different. I use all of my posts to show behind the scenes and to show the product and also to introduce myself to people. And I use my email introduction to really explain my brand and what makes it different. So those are the two places that I realized, okay, I need to focus on getting more people engaged here. How do I do that? And it was actually my partner's idea, or my boyfriend's idea, to run a really good contest. And he showed me this t-shirt company that was doing really well because they had started by giving away cash, and then it grew and grew and grew and grew until they were giving away cars. And he's like, you need to think of something big. Like, what do people really want? And so I think it was early last year when I started running a contest where for every 1,000 new followers and every 1,000 new email subscribers, so 2 separate draws, but every 1,000 new subscribers, I would give away a year subscription of leggings. And somebody would get a new pair every month for a year. And the idea for this came because with my pre-order business model, I release new prints on the first of every month. And I was having customers who were ordering every single month's print, just because they loved them, not because they needed them. And so I thought, this is something that people would just be overjoyed to have. They get a year subscription of leggings. I mean, who doesn't want that? So I started running these contests. I know, right? And it's a contest that people just can't refuse. It's really hard for, if I do trade shows and I have a sign for it or I have my draw box, people are like, yes, absolutely, I want to sign up for that. And people do. So I've been growing. I think the first one maybe took me 6 months to get 1,000 new followers on Instagram. And then the second time, I think it took 4 months. And then now I think it's only been 2 months and I'm about to hit my next level of followers. And then, I'm constantly posting on Instagram like, hey, there's a second contest. If you sign up to my email, bigger chance to win because I have less subscribers than I do Instagram followers. So a lot of people sign up to my email. I'm about to do my third email draw. So I'm about to have 3,000 email subscribers. When I started this, I think I had like under 500. So in a year, it takes time. So in a year, I've built that up. But all of my email subscribers are very active. Like, I've even did a purge at one point where I got rid of all the inactive people. So they're all very, very actively subscribed. And they know that they need to be actively subscribed in order to be part of this draw. And, and I do, in addition to the big contest, in order to keep people kind of engaged, because, thinking I'm never going to win this big contest, but I have another contest for a pair of leggings every month as well. So that monthly contest plus the big contest really keeps people active on my email list. And from that, I've seen such an increase in sales. And I've also noticed that as long as I'm consistent, I had a lot of troubles being consistent at the beginning, especially with Instagram posting. Like I would be really good for a few days and then I would drop off the radar for a week. But when I'm consistent, posting every day, consistently sending out the emails, my sales just, double, triple. It's crazy to see how much just that constant awareness that your brand exists makes.
100%. I mean, we talk about this in my programs around relentless visibility, right? Mm-hmm. Which doesn't mean you have to be annoying. It doesn't mean you have to be like on every channel all the time. But what it means is that you need to be front of mind, right? Mm-hmm. On a regular basis and be consistently front of mind for people.
Like with my email list, I know emails really can be really annoying for people to have a flooded inbox. So I promise my customers and I promise my new subscribers that I'm only sending them 2 emails a month. That's it. And that's the promise that I made to them. If you subscribe, you're going to get a welcome email. It's going to explain the brand. I don't have a long introduction of emails because I feel like with clothing, you don't really need that. And then I just send 2 emails per month, and I can scatter throughout those emails, a little bit more introduction. And like the first email is the new print and it's a contest. And then the second email is like a reminder to order the new print plus who won the contest. And that's it. That's all they get from me. And I think that helps keep people subscribed as well, because I'm not flooding their inbox all the time. They know what to expect and they stay actively subscribed because they like what's in the emails.
Well, there's this really cool element of this business model that you've chosen because there's something always happening, right? People are really loyal to you because the quality of your product is phenomenal. It makes people look great no matter what size you are, but this is not a cheap product. This is what's so interesting is this is a very expensive product for what it is, right? It's a technical piece of outerwear.
Yeah. I mean, once in a while I get the comments on posts, $100 for a pair of leggings. And it can make you feel defensive when people post about your pricing, but I've learned to see those comments as an opportunity to really explain my pricing, and so my way that I react to these comments has definitely changed over the years. And I just had one last week where a girl commented about it. And I just said, thank you. I totally understand the sentiment. Thank you for creating this opportunity to explain our pricing. And then I went on to say, these aren't just leggings. These are high performance, technical, athletic tights that are eco-friendly, ethical, made in small batches with limited edition prints. They should cost $160 a pair, but they don't because of the work that we do behind the scenes to help get that cost down and make it more accessible. And then, so I replied with that. And it was interesting to see that, some of my followers went and replied to my, reply saying like, oh, definitely these are highly worth the investment. I have a few pairs. I love them. I wear them all the time. Definitely worth the money. Do some research about this brand. She's wonderful, like worth it. And so that was really cool, not just to be able to respond in a way that was positive and gave me a chance to explain my pricing, but also to have my own customers respond as well, saying that, this is really, really worth it. And that's so valuable to have, such a strong following of customers that they're there to back you up and support you. And it's, there's tons and tons of activewear brands right now. Like it's blown up. And even though the global activewear industry is growing, I think I saw something recently that it grew 10% last year, which is huge. But the amount of brands that are popping up as well means that there's not enough for all of them to survive. The whole industry is completely flooded, and a lot of them are not going to survive. And I think the ones that are going to survive are the ones that have strong values, have strong value propositions, and that do something extra for their customers that make their customers feel special and bring them back. And I know that we had a session one time where we were talking about the data, and I wasn't that good about reading my data yet, so he had me look up my return customer rate, and we were both kind of blown away by the number that was there. I had no idea, but I think at the time it was like 60%, which was double the average.
Yeah, people need more of a reason to buy than just the product these days, right? And especially, I have other clients in this space too, and it hasn't been a super. What's interesting about you is that the garment industry, the clothing industry has really taken a hit in the last few years, and those have been the years in which you've grown.
Yeah.
And you have people who want to emulate what you have done. And one of the conversations that we had, I remember we did a session around what could come in the future for you and what we had envisioned for you in the future. So talk a little bit about that, because this just adds this whole other layer to your brand. You've created this reason for people to come back. You have people who buy every month because they're looking forward to the next design, and they feel so good in what you've created for them, but they can get behind it because they know that there's like a conscience behind your brand. And now what's the next evolution of the business?
So I kept getting asked this question, where do you see your brand in 5 years? And I had a really hard time answering it because I just couldn't picture it. I couldn't picture myself having stores across Canada or having a huge product line. That just didn't feel right for me. It didn't motivate me. It wasn't what I was into. And so I spent a lot of time, kind of trying to soul search a little bit on how do I answer this question, because it's going to come up and again and again and again. Where do you see your brand going? And there's a huge shift happening right now with consumers. They're less interested in buying products. They're more interested in having experiences. And I totally feel that way myself. Like, I would rather spend $100 on entering a running race and going and doing that running race than buying myself a new pair of pants. And I fully encourage that too. So I was like, how can I develop as a brand that is maybe not necessarily totally product based, even though I'm selling a product? And so I've actually been brainstorming ways to make my whole brand experience, or just that, more of an experience. Something that is completely different from the way people normally buy their products. And so I've been looking at, the whole process from, initial realization that my brand exists to getting the product, to the follow-up that I have with my customers after they have the product, and other things that I can offer them to create a really, really unique experience. So, my buy-in experience is unique. It's pre-order. They get to learn more about the fashion industry. They get to learn what things that they can do to help the fashion industry and lower their impact. When they receive my product, I'm not just shoving a product in a bag and shipping it to them, and then, they have to open it up and they have these leggings, but I'm actually creating an experience there as well. Like, I have very special packaging. People are always commenting on, the way that it's wrapped. They get a little sprig of lavender. It makes them feel special. And my packaging is about to take a step up too, which I'm really excited for. And then I'm always following up with people and asking them how things are going with the leggings. I started a run club here in Squamish, and I'm always posting about, my running ideas and stuff. And that helped me come up with something that I want to create. And I'm not going to go too into detail, but I have an idea for a platform that I want to create for the type of people that use my product over, I'm really into running. And so I have an idea for a platform that has to do with running, that I want to create to help bring the community of runners that I know together, and give them opportunity to kind of meet each other, have accountability, set goals, and really get to know the community. And it's something that I haven't seen before in the community. So I'm really excited to work on that and to be a brand that's more than just product based, but, experience driven.
And you have a vision as well to eventually teach other people how to do what you've done.
Oh, for sure. And that was something that we talked about in length too. So in addition to that, I want to be an in-house operation. I want to, I see a lot of ways or room to improve the product by being in-house, but also to improve the customer experience and the experience of the people that work for me and work on my product. And through that, I want to almost, I've always kind of thought of my brand as a bit of a research project. From the point when I restarted as a pre-order brand with slow fashion values, I've thought of my brand as a bit of a research project where I'm collecting data. I'm trying to prove that this business model can work, and so that I can in turn teach it to others. And so I want to be operating in-house. I want to be hiring people based on their goal of going on and starting their own ethical brands or ethical companies. I want to be teaching them the values of slow fashion and then helping them set up their businesses and go on to, their future company. And that is something that was missing for me in my previous job is, nobody really sat me down and asked me like, hey, like, what do you envision? Do you plan on staying here? Do you plan on starting your own brand? And I think with a lot of companies, especially if you get hired and then you tell them that you want to go start your own business, they're not very supportive of that. They want to keep you forever. And I think I want to bring people in knowing that they're going to go on and do their own thing, and encouraging them to do that and helping teach them to do that. As I think that's going to be so important in this era. And it's neat because I talked about funding earlier. I ended up finding a funding program that works for me. And I've noticed this with their company is that they actually hire all of their people that work for their company are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. And their goal is to bring them in, teach them about their company, and then send them off into the world and help fund them. And I just thought that's so cool because that's completely what I want to do. And I mean, it's funny that I managed to find this company, align with them, and get funding from them. And, we have these shared values. And so, it's really interesting when you put out a certain intention that you just naturally kind of come together with other people that have the same goal.
I mean, there's another aspect to what you had envisioned with this kind of incubator that you're thinking of building, and there's a story behind that that's also so interesting about helping women who are working in the garment industry be able to make more money and improve their skill set by getting access to working on all different aspects of production. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So a lot of, I go to these factories and, there's certain things that I'm aware of or that I notice. And for one, a lot of the workers are, first or second generation immigrants, skilled workers for sure. But, there's often a language barrier, they don't speak English or they don't speak English very well. And but something I feel, especially with the garment industry and with production, those little things make such a difference in the quality of the product that comes out. Language barrier, if I can't explain exactly what I want or they're not understanding, it creates room for error. And I just see this opportunity, but these guys, no matter how well I design something, no matter how well I explain something, it's the workers in the factory that are making it. And they're the ones that are going to make or break whether a brand is successful or not based on their quality. And so I see a lot of room to make improvements there. I have some ideas on what I can do. But ultimately, I want to bring production in-house so that I can make a closer connection with the workers and I can really be hands-on with them, not necessarily teaching them what to do, but understanding what they already know how to do and encourage bringing out the best of their skill set. And, a lot of times designers kind of go into factories, barking orders, yelling, telling people, fix this, fix that, instead of, asking, hey, what do you know? Do you know how to sew this in a better way? Do you have a suggestion for, how to fix this problem that we're having? And chances are they probably do. And so often when I go in and talk with my factory owner now, I'm asking her, okay, this is my problem. I can't quite work out how to construct this in my head. Do you have any suggestions? Can you make me a mock-up or a sample? There's still language barrier. We can't always communicate super well. I think there's ways that being in-house, able to have a translator come in from time to time and help us work through these problems. And then I think you could really start to help these skilled workers move up in the industry so they're not just, stuck behind a sewing machine and not being listened to or heard or developed. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
I love it. Oh, I love it. And I'm looking forward to the day that we can make that happen here because it's so needed and it's so important to shake up these traditional crappy, work environments that we have sort of forced people into. Okay. So what kind of support do you need in order to make your vision happen?
Well, this year is the year of learning to outsource for me. I've been through the years of trying to do everything myself or having to do everything myself because I didn't have, the budget or the steady revenue to be able to outsource tasks. So this is the year of outsourcing. And, I really want to be able to focus on my product design and expanding my product line. So I'm looking for, support with my social media, with my customer service, When you're starting a business, you never really understand how much customer service there is. I come back on a Monday from the weekend and I have 200 emails in my inbox. It takes me half a Monday just to get through that. So, finding support for these things that, you're often working on the daily grind in your business instead of getting to work on it. So I'm starting to, list out the tasks that other people can be doing, so that I can train them. And then honestly, it's kind of an interesting place for me to be in right now. I was often looking for, support or financial support to grow. But I have found that, and I don't need that anymore. Or at least, obviously if people throw money at you, it's great, but, but I reached a level in my revenue where I've been able to partner with a funding program where, I don't have to pay interest. It's not a loan. They give you capital to help you with your ad budgets, and you pay it back as a flat fee, and you pay it back as a percentage of your sales. And so it's kind of neat. As I grow, I qualify to borrow more, and then I pay it back almost without noticing it. It's just coming out as an automatic withdrawal as I make revenue. And then I can continually borrow from them and grow and grow and grow and grow at a rate that feels safe. I'm not risking a lot. It's not, I'm not signing my life away. I'm not mortgaging my house to take out a business loan. So I feel very supported financially right now. I feel very supported by my customers. It's kind of a great place to be in after 5 years.
And it's been so intentional. And I think that that's what's exciting about it is you have decided. You decided what you were going to do and you went for it, and it worked. And
Mm-hmm.
it worked because there was complete alignment with the direction you were headed. And I'm so proud of you. Okay. What's the one big thing that you want people to know that would help, that you wish you knew when you first got started?
One big thing that I wish I knew and want people to know. Oh man, it's so hard to pinpoint one thing. I would just say it's like the same thing everybody says, just make sure you're really passionate about it. You want to be working on that thing that you would work on even if you weren't getting paid to do it, because you're probably not going to get paid to do it in the beginning. And I remember this quote that I read. I'm not going to be able to say it verbatim, but it was basically, if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to work for free. And I think what that really means is that you have to be so passionate about what you're doing that when there's no time and there's no money and you're stressed out and going bananas, that you're still going to get up and work on it. And having that kind of passion is what's going to lead you to be successful. And you don't have to know exactly, you don't need to have all the details. You just need to have, kind of the idea and get started. So don't worry about the details too much. You'll figure it out as you go. Don't worry about being ready. Nobody's ever ready. And yeah.
Okay. So we have to end, because at some point in time we have to end, but I know that we could talk forever about this. I want to thank you so much for coming on. This is a little bit of a different take on business. Your story is so powerful and it needs to be told. And we always have such an amazing conversation about where you've gone, what you've done, and the world needs to hear it. So go and check out Nadine. Tell us, where can we find you?
So you can find me on my website online. It's at www.bewildher.com. There's a bit of a funny spelling there, so it's BEWILDHER. Most people forget the H. You can also follow me on Instagram at bewildher. I'm on Facebook as Bewilder Fitwear. You can find me, if you go on my website and you look under events, I usually have events posted, so you can find me at some local trade shows. I do the BMO Vancouver Marathon every year. I'm at the Refresh Market in Squamish for all 3 markets. I'll be at the Hilton Holiday Market next Christmas. Where else can you find me?
There's lots of places for them to start anyway. We'll put links in the We'll put links in the show notes so that they can find you. So go and check her out. Go and buy a pair of these damn pants. I have, I think, about 35 of them. And they have become the only thing I wear for any of my activities, but also just for sitting around at home. Because they fit so well, and they're such a great, I feel so good about wearing them because there's such a great story behind them. And thank you for tuning in today to hear Nadine's story. The episodes that you're listening to are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called The Real Deal Business Coaching Group, where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business and sharing your everyday challenges, bi-weekly virtual coffee chats, open coaching, member support within this incredible community, and now we are having monthly pop-up coaching sessions. If you'd like to join our community or if you'd like to be featured on this show, I'd love for you to come and hang out with us in the group. This link is in the show notes, or search us up for Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And finally, I would love for you to join us in our next episode where we're going to speak to Claudia Consolati, who's a wonderful, wonderful coach who helps women find their deep voice and purpose and stories so that they can speak with authenticity and confidence. You're going to love Claudia. Thank you so much for being here. And if you've enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're on. This helps us share our stories with an even bigger audience. And until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.